Alright guys, so I'm going to show you now how I set up my tip ups when I'm out on the lake. How I put them down and all that. So, let's get into it. So you pop your flag up, slide it all the way to the end, then you pop your reel out here. And now some of my tip ups, I run the 2-hook system, and some of them I run just a single hook system. These are quick strike rigs. Some of them got the double Y treble on these, or whatever you want to call it, the double hook quick strike rigs, and some of them it's just the one. I'm not fussy either way. They all seem to catch fish for the most part. I just use these when I'm running bigger baits typically. Like when I'm running big sucker minnows, I tend to run these a little more. And I got some setup of each right always, just so that way if I do have a couple bigger sucker minnows, I'll put one of these down, and if I'm running shiners or something, I'll just run a single. So now you clip your weight on. Yeah, I'll show you guys here. I use the weight system. Clip a big weight on there, and then you send her down. Now I got a sinker here. I'm gonna steal that off of there. You're gonna send it down all the way to the bottom until you hit down. Okay, there's bottom. Grab at the water, pull it up to about 3 or 4 feet. Depends how much water I'm fishing in. If I'm fishing in deeper water, I'll lift it up higher. If I'm fishing in shallower water, I'll lift it up a little less. It just kind of depends how much water I'm working with here. So you can see there probably about 3 feet or so, and then take my sinker and I put it at where I want it to sit in the water column. This is just like a bobber stop essentially. It just marks my spot, so that way after I catch a fish and it peels out a bunch of line, I know where I have to reel it back to. Just clamp that back on there. I always just use my teeth because it's easier and much faster, and I don't really care that much. So then take your weight off and clip her back on your jacket or something, so that way you don't lose it. And then you're gonna take and lay that out. Sometimes I'll put my minnow on there right away and then send it down and then reel it up to the sinker, and sometimes I'll just reel it to the sinker and then take care of the rest of it. So you can see there, I just reel it up to the sinker, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You just got to get it so it isn't behind here. That's the biggest thing. You don't want it behind the little line guide. You want it out in front. You don't want it behind, because if the fish grabs the bait and pulls, and you have a bigger sinker like I'm running, or even smaller sinkers, they can get caught right there, and they can do kind of a, the fish can kind of feel that tension sometimes, and it'll let go of the bait, and then you'll be running up to a hole that you think you got a fish on the other end of, and really it was a fish that bit it and pulled it, but then your bait just continued to fall to the bottom because the fish went, I don't think so. So just a little tip there for you. I want to keep that right out in front of that line guide. And I always just run it on the heaviest setting. I don't really ever use the softer setting, or whatever you want to call it there, the more touchy setting. I always use the heavy side, just personal preference. Typically I'm fishing in windier conditions, and I'm usually going for northerns. So I mean, I know people use these for walleyes too, but I think a walleye pulls hard enough that it's not going to know the difference there. So I just always use the heavy side, personal preference kind of thing. And then you put your flag under there, and then when you set it down here, when you set it down in the hole, if it's really windy, you want to watch which way you have your flag, because otherwise your wind can grab it. The wind can grab it and it'll blow it out from underneath there, and you'll get tons of false flags. Like just non-stop false flags from the wind, just blowing them out from underneath. And that sucks, because you don't want to be out in the wind more than you have to be. Because typically when it's windy, it's cold, and your fingers get really cold really fast. Luckily today we don't have those conditions, so you don't really got to worry about it too much. You just got to set it up so you can see it. Trickiest part in the wind is you have to set it up so you can see it, but also so the wind doesn't blow the flag out from underneath the little thing on top. And sometimes if it's really, really windy, I've even made taken the slush from the hole and made a little wind blocker for around the tip up to kind of help block that wind from blowing the flag out. So you just take and you pile the slush up into a little line around it to protect it from the wind. And it also keep your tip up from getting just blown over with snow and all that kind of stuff too. And it'll help keep it from getting frozen in as well when you cover that up and keep the wind from getting at it. But that's how I set that up. I'll show you guys how I put my minnows on real quick. I'm not actually setting this one down. I'm just using this one for an example, because I already have all my lines out. And like I said, when I set up my tip ups that I'm actually fishing with, my GoPro went dead. So then yeah, now I'm doing this to show you guys how I actually set them up. I'll walk over by the minnow bucket here, and I'll show you how I hook my minnows onto my quick strike rigs, whether it's a double or a single. I'll show you both how I do it either way. So if you're looking to get into tip upping, I would highly recommend running the round style tip ups. They'll work way better in cold weather. All around they're just nicer because your hole doesn't freeze shut even on just cold, calm days. And you don't have to bust your hole open every time you get a flag to get the tip up out of the water, which is really nice, because then you don't gotta, it's just a little less effort, and it's a little nicer that way. And I mean, expense wise, they're about the same, honestly. It just, in my mind, it makes way more sense to just buy the insulated thermal tip ups. I typically run the Frables. I know some other brands make them too, non-insulated, but I always just get the insulated 10-inch pro thermal tip up, because then I just throw them all in a pail, and then it's nice and easy. They pack nicely that way if they're all the same. And you can really put a lot of them in a pail. So now I'll show you how I hook my minnows onto my quick strike rig. So if it is, let me grab a shiner here. All right, this one will be fine. So if it's a bigger minnow and I'm running a double treble like this one here, I will hook one back here by the tail, right about in the middle between the tail and this fin here. So I don't know if you guys can see that very well. I hook it right behind this fin here, about right in the middle between the tail and the fin. And then I'll take the other hook and I'll hook it right in the back of the head. Oh,